Well, hey everybody, you're tuned into Pacific Ocean Asia. Like my coin necklace? This is how I accessorize myself. We do chains, we do Mardi Gras beads, we do Hong Kong necklaces, we do skeleton keys, we do everything. This was made out of 2 bracelets that I took apart, I bought, and then joined them together to make one. I get more compliments from this, as well as the chain, as well as all my bling blings. Feeling 100% today. Got over the following ailments this winter. A bronchial cold that lasted a month, several small irritating colds, the flu, pink eye. Pacific, how many days of work did you miss? 0. I think it's funny. In this day and age, with millennials, with the part of the geography that I live in the United States, we just have a lot, and the cultural dynamic. We have a lot of people that they wake up in the morning, see an inch of snow, and they don't feel like driving their bus, and they call in. Our absenteeism is just huge. It's been bad, but it's even worse this year. We have supervisors, routers, mechanics, people in office positions in the Department of Transportation get into buses every day just to cover routes. Just blows me away. Sometimes I think it's kind of sad that some people just don't want to work. So, got up, did my mile walk around the lake, went to church, and while I was sitting in church, I was thinking of the topic for this video. We'll get to that in a minute. Went and got my steak and eggs breakfast, and went to the rec center. The rec center is my oasis in this town. I meet people there, men and women, sit there and chat. People that are happy to see me, people that I'm happy to see. Last night, I invited one of my rec center buddies, an older woman, said, let's go to dinner. Went and picked it up at her place, went to dinner, and when we got there, she goes, I'm paying for you. Your birthday's coming up, and you've always bought for me, and I'm buying dinner tonight. And I said, right on. Went to Golden Corral and ate like pigs. Golden Corral's awesome. It's a buffet, all you can eat. The older I get, I just enjoy people. Just eating a meal and talking. I don't know if any of you ever saw, there was a show on a while ago called Seinfeld, Coffee and Cars. A good lady friend of mine out east coast turned me on to that. Seinfeld gets to borrow some interesting vehicle, calls up another movie star, actor, in their town. Hey, Seinfeld. I'm in the neighborhood. Just thought I'd come by, pick you up, go have some coffee. Pick up the gentleman, go to a coffee shop somewhere, and talk. You learn a lot about people by eating a meal with them. But back to the content matter of the video. I was sitting in church, and I couldn't help but thinking, I like our pastor. I like his preaching. We had the announcement time, and I couldn't help. Now, excuse me. I couldn't help but thinking. And before I tell you what I'm thinking, I realize that there are viewers that will trip. Some viewers will go, really, Civic? I told you I'm not a big holiday fan. I don't do Christmas, I don't do Easter, I definitely don't do Halloween. Churches in America used to be known, most evangelical ones anyway, for steering clear of Easter egg hunts, dying Easter eggs, Easter egg bunnies, Easter baskets, Christmas stockings, Christmas trees. In fact, if you go back to early American history, I believe it was the Quakers or the Puritans that did not do Christmas. And there's a whole historical thing about how Christmas came into America. But it was basically pushed through consumerism, the merchants. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I believe, was an offshoot of Coca-Cola. I take that back. It was actually a story written by a department store that had a gentleman wrote a book, it became a movie. And it's interesting because people, and you'll have to bear with me, I said I'm 100%, still got a scratchy throat. Denver dishes out some hellacious allergies with our air quality is not so great down here. You would think in Colorado we'd have the best air, not down here. Rudolph is a reindeer that can fly. His nose shines bright. This sleigh takes off. Santa Claus knows who's been naughty or nice. And you start going, wow, Santa Claus can get everywhere in a night. But in the Philippines, they don't have chimneys. Hong Kong doesn't have chimneys. Most of the rest of the world doesn't have chimneys. And we perpetrated a lie that he goes all around the world, when in reality, Santa Claus doesn't visit anybody. There isn't a Santa Claus. That it's parents. That it's parents who have money. That the whole Christmas thing is really enjoyed more by affluent cultures, with the exception of Mexico and the Philippines, which have bought into it due to their Catholic roots. But our church today was advertising an Easter egg hunt. Bring your eggs, bring the dye. And inside my mind, I'm going, facepalm, why are we doing this? And then one of the speakers gets up and says, we want the kids to come not because of all the candy and all the stuff that they'll get, but we want this to be an outreach for the gospel. Easter egg hunt and gospel. What do they have in common? Nothing. The music that was playing, we don't even have somebody give them announcements anymore. We have a video where people pre-record it Monday through Friday and then put this cheesy thing together. And I told you a lot of the worship music we sing is just doesn't cut it. That people got tired of the old hymns, and I couldn't help but thinking I had this deja vu. I pictured a can of Cheese Whiz come into my mind, and I'm like, Cheese Whiz, remember that? You know, a little orange thing. It was shaped like a star, and you bent it over and it went, and you usually put it on a Ritz cracker or something. Cheese Whiz. And I just sat there thinking, we're a Cheese Whiz culture today. That for churches, they're grasping at straws to try to reach neighborhoods and communities with the gospel, especially here in Colorado, because virtually nobody's interested in truth out here. I'm very abrasive when I say, but I know this culture well. I lived in Colorado a total of 16 plus years. Colorado culture can be defined by the Starbucks, the SUV, the dog, the ski rack, the Thule box on top of the SUV, the dog paw sticker on the back, the native sticker on the back. Church in Colorado, for most people, is like when the lady and I went to Golden Corral. It's a side dish. You know, you grab your green beans. You tell the gentleman at the grill, yeah, I'll have a piece of that sirloin, please. Just give me a nice medium well. And I'll get a couple slices of that roast beef. A little sweet potato dessert. Some awesome pot roast. That's what they call it. Oh, I love that stuff. A little white rice. Some mushrooms. Refried beans, some cheesy potatoes, some scalloped potatoes with onions. That our culture is a buffet culture. There was a preacher in Aurora, Colorado years ago that used to have a famous expression. Too many people approach Christianity and churchianity like a little dab will do ya. And he used to say, God promised to meet our needs, not our greeds. Pastor was talking about out of Matthew chapter 7 today. I'm sorry, John chapter 7. And he said something, and I immediately perked up. He said, yes, the Bible does say that seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. He said, but I think too oftentimes in our culture, we seek comfortable first, and then we say, we'll take a little bit of God. And I just sat there going, now you're speaking. I have longed for any pastor to stand up and start blasting this feminism. And I couldn't help but think when I was sitting in church today, how much of our stuff is tailored around women? How much of the church format, the announcements, the way people talk, the humor that's injected in sermons is all designed to please the women. I watched as a woman brought a whole plate of breakfast and her coffee, comes in, sits down in front of me. When the pastor says anything of a positive nature, like today he says, I think it's great to live in Colorado. We're one of the best states. Oh, yes, amen, amen. She shows her spirituality. Ironically, the only people I feel comfortable with in that church are the only two Hispanic, a couple in their 60s, that we chat every Sunday. And I just can't help but think my white culture's become a Cheese Whiz culture. We're going to get into a few things here. We're going to offend some atheists. We're going to offend some evolutionists. We're going to offend those that claim that, because they're liberal and they have a college degree, that they're far more loftier and noble and eloquent than I am. We're going to step on some toes. But I'm starting with the church right now. I'm starting with the church realizing I have an audience of who knows varied ethnic, socioeconomic, sexual preference, male, female, young or old, that could tune into my video channel at any time. I don't say what I say to target a specific group of people. I say what is in my heart. I try to be a clarion call to the deficits, to the problems of our culture. If I can go to church on Sunday morning and I get more connection with a Hispanic couple. In fact, one day she brought me a bracelet that her son had made. She goes, "Can I have one of those from you? I know a guy that wears all kinds of stuff on him and I think he'd like it. And I'll show it to my viewers someday." It always comes back to the internationals. Yes, I talk about the Hispanic dynamic in Denver, but let me make it very clear. I have many associations with male and female Hispanics that are kind people. The lady I took to dinner, or that actually bought it for me last night, is Hispanic. She was born in Mexico. She came to the U.S. at a very young age, and her father filled out all the papers and did it right. She is against illegal immigration. She's a Democrat. She's very anti-Trump. But we actually had a good discussion at dinner last night. She goes, I'm tired of these illegals. I see what they're doing. Giving them driver's licenses and the right to vote? She goes, no. And one of the things the Pacific has to do is it's easy to get caught up in the anger of an issue, and you have to stop and go, hold it. There are Mexican men and women out there that don't agree with the never Trumpers. In fact, one day I was in the pool. Very good-looking Hispanic woman started chatting with me, told me she's a conservative, told me she's a Christian. She lives in Mexico part of the year and the U.S. part of the year, but she's got all her papers. She said, you know, Pacific, I totally agree with Donald Trump. He's trying to protect his country. She said, it's wrong for illegals to come into Mexico. Why are they yelling and screaming about people saying we shouldn't let them into the U.S.? She goes, I believe in the president and what he said. I can't help but listen to him and applaud him. The liberals and the media would actually have you to believe in this country that all the white people are demons, that they're all racist, the white males, I should reiterate. The feminists are way up here on a pedestal. I don't know if you've noticed the media culture, they really grandstand to the feminists. Really grandstand. Look at a show called The View. I'm not going to mention the names of all the wonderful ladies on there. Sometimes Ann Coulter is on there. Ann Coulter is a conservative and they don't like her. I like Ann Coulter. The very good political writer. Knows her stuff. We're talking about a Cheese Whiz culture. I sit in church and inwardly I groan. I go, why are we doing Easter egg hunts and Easter egg dying? All connected to the pagan past. Why do we do... Oh, come on, Pacific. It's just kid stuff. It's all on how you take it. Okay, you're right. You're right. We shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And therefore that means the Old Testament was wrong too. God told the Israelites, get those Baal worshippers out of there, destroy their temple, and tear that stuff up. The Jews went up and tore the stuff down, the Asherah poles, the whole 9 yards. And in one verse somewhere it says, and the grounds were being used as a latrine to this day. In other words, God thought their religion amounted to nothing more than a toilet. And people get mad when I say that, but it's right there. You can check it yourself. No. God told the Israelites, thou shalt have no other gods before thee. And I watch the evangelical church grab onto little things from the pagan past. And you know why they do it? It's exactly what I talked about in my video the other day about standing up for what's right. Christians are afraid. In fact, we had in our video announcements a gentleman stand up and say, I'm going to have a class. Are you scared to share your faith? Don't know how to do it? I'm cynical about that. I am cynical because I'm like, you don't know how to share your faith. Okay. Folks, I'm going to tell you something very simple. You go out and buy an SUV. So you go out and buy the brand new Honda Pilot. Okay. You love it. You like the legroom. You like the handling ability. You like all that, right? What are you going to do when you get around your friends? What are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about your Honda Pilot. A lot of the SUV sales and a lot of the sales of any vehicle is simply by word of mouth. Oh, I love my Toyota. Never breaks down. Boom. You got Johnny over here that's about American. He says, man, maybe I ought to look at Toyota. How do you share your faith? Same way. Before I was a Christian, I didn't understand anything. After I became a Christian, the Bible made sense. Viewpoints came into clear focus. I started going, hey, wait a minute. All this stuff out here. You know, I grew up being told that all roads lead to the same place. No, they don't. No, they don't. Wouldn't that be nice if that really was the case? But it isn't. And in a Cheese Whiz culture, Pastor Daddy was talking about filling the thirst in your life. And he talked about, I just finished the book Unbroken, Louis Zamperini's drifting across the Pacific Ocean, 47 days on a raft. And he didn't drink the seawater. He knew in his mind, you drink that, you're a goner. But people get so desperate that they're thirsty that they lean over the side of the raft and start gulping the stuff. Your death is imminent when you start doing that. And the pastor said something. He says, when you're thirsty, most people always try to slake their thirst. But instead of coming to the truth and instead of coming to God, they turn on more CNN. They go to Buddhism. They go to some other religion. And not only do we have that, we have a culture that has become so juvenile. And I'm going to pick on a lot of women in this. They have a bad experience with a man, so then they go get a little doggy and they're going to maybe talk to their dog, and they're going to walk around and buy all these baby toys and accoutrements for their dog. I know an individual that I am called upon to do cat duty periodically. She pays well. She has bought so many cat toys, cat accoutrements. The whole house is full of cat accoutrements. We got Fancy Feast. We've got Prime. We've got this. We've got that. And there's a cat feeding station, the dry, and the cat feeding station, the water. And we've got bowls of food sitting out. I'm thinking, man, what is going on here? People are OCD about their pets. Petsco, PetSmart, all that is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's true, you go to the modern-day church today, and you're not going to have a pastor break out the thunder. I've had people tell me on Facebook, my previous channel, and even now, I'd rather listen to you than any preacher on Sunday morning. They're weak. This isn't a commercial for advertising how great Pacific is. No. I think we all know that Pacific has more than enough flaws. It's just that I'm willing to talk about the things a lot of people don't want to talk about. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. If you want to be popular and you want to fit in, don't listen to Pacific Ocean Asia. That's not going to score you any points. If you want to go far in life, as the culture out there defines far, associating with a guy like me and listening to my viewpoints is poison for your soul. Because this stuff isn't designed to make you feel good. I hear more people criticize Rush Limbaugh. I mean, dog and criticize him. I said, have you ever listened to what he says? Oh, I'm not going to listen to him. Uh-huh. Let me tell you this. You liberals, you want to put down wrestling, but you sit down, listen to his program, and start writing notes. And then come back and tell me out of all the stuff he said, how much of it is lie. You can't do it, and you won't do it. Classic one is the people who tell me they've read the Bible. Really? I had a gentleman the other day come up to me and tell me at work, you overheard me talking about the marijuana. And all I said is, I don't believe God would want us getting high. I believe there's enough principles in his word that he does not want us turning ourselves over to a controlled substance. Because in my opinion, when you open your mind to drug usage, you open your door for the devil, the demons, to get in and have sway over you. The Bible says, be not given into drunkenness. Be not filled with wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. He draws a direct analogy. You're going to be filled with something. Better to be filled with the Holy Spirit than with wine, the influence of pot, materialism, OCD about your pet, always talking about your SUV and the new Starbucks coffee. I mean, for people like me, that's a dead-end bunch of people. I don't go to Starbucks. I don't sit in those places. I get absolutely nothing out of it to feed me. The doctrine, the teaching, the foolish philosophy, because that is what it is, of evolution. And when you're dealing with the people who believe in evolution, their response is almost never mature, never intellectual, never here's the proof. It's like the old lady on the Wendy's commercial. Where's the beef? They don't give you any. Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion. If you take the time to read that tripe, there's no smoking gun thing that says, oh yeah, I guess this God thing is just a bunch of baloney and evolution is true. There's nothing. Evolution is destructive for the health of a society. If you think I'm joking, let's contrast the Judeo-Christian worldview in early American history, and let's contrast the view that the millennials are holding today, that really came about in the 60s. Don't spank your kids, you could damage their ego. Now we got kids out there that are all 100% ego. They all think they're little gods, all think they're little goddesses. Every teenage girl thinks they're the only diva out there, complete with inappropriate, sexualized dressing. And they're smarting off to the police. They're smarting off to the bus driver, the teacher, the preacher, the moms, the dads, everything. And mom and dad don't dare lay a hand on them because Child Protective Services will be called. You never want to get in the crosshairs, CPS or social services. No way you'll be in the courtroom for the rest of your kids' days. Cheese Whiz culture? That's what happens when you teach people there's no absolutes. That's what happens when you teach people there's no God. Because the evolutionists, if you look at the heart of every one of them, they can hide behind the veneer. And we'll call it veneer. The veneer of their science degree. I wish I could play the song right now. Science. Science. Thomas Dolby's classic, She Blinded Me with Science. People are being blinded by pseudo science. We're not going to get into this again, except for me to use my trusted illustration. How come there's monkeys? That was compliments of Pyramid Head. If evolution is true, why are there still monkeys? Why are there still salamanders? I'm sorry, tadpoles. The redonkulousness, by the way, I support him too. The redonkulousness of this stuff knows no bounds. When you spray Cheese Whiz out of a can, you get Cheese Whiz. When you have a worldview that's falsely called science, and the atheists are always good at coming back with their panty snappers. I call them panty snappers. Oh, well, look at all the wars in the name of religion. Oh, got me in the butt. Oh, wait a minute. You need to grab the panties right out of the hair and take it and pull it all the way back and hit them in both butt cheeks. Look at all the wars that have been started by atheists and godless governments. Stalin, Lenin, no boat, no motor car, not a single TV. Like Adolf Hitler, as nefarious as can be. Oh, wait a minute. Hitler was Catholic. Let's just stop right there. Hitler made a statement back to the Pope back in a certain time. And the Pope had sent him, I don't know if he sent him an envoy, had written something, but said, hey, stop it. And Hitler just got smarky with him and said, hey, man, I'm the Fonz. I'm just doing what you started. You guys were ghettoing the Jews and doing what you did. I'm just trying to finish it up. Catholic Church got real quiet at that point. But let's talk about atheism. Let's talk about godless communism in China. Let's talk about Mr. Kim Jong-un. Let's talk about all of the governments that have been started without any reference to God, without any reference to God's commands. And let's see how well they've done with human rights and bettering people's lifestyles, not their little inner groupies in the higher echelons. That after all, is just like Animal Farm. The pigs move into the house. They take over the best of the best. We're not going to work. We're going to sit here and drink the wine and eat the caviar and live good while all those animals out there in the field are doing it all for us. Socialism is a lie because the pigs live in the house. The pigs live like pigs, and the pigs are being hogs about everything. And isn't that the way radical Democrat thinking is in America? Line my wallet, line my health account, line my investment portfolio. Who cares about the rest of y'all? People can laugh, they can sneer, they can say all the stuff they want to say, but they can't refute the fact. Socialism doesn't work. Atheism does not better a society. It oppresses a society. But what about the Crusades and the Inquisitions? Catholics, my friends, Catholics. To equate Catholicism with Christianity is a misnomer. Christianity is defined by one cardinal belief: that there's no other way to God but through Jesus Christ. That Jesus Christ was, is, and always will be God. Well, come on, Pacific. The Catholics believe in the deity of Jesus Christ. Yeah, but start studying their religion and find out all the myriad of things you have to do and the trees you have to climb to get up there to maybe make it to purgatory. Come on now. I know what I'm talking about. Evolution has been a damnable, destructive heresy brought onto the world. And I'm going to say something. Jesus said something very, very profound about children. Whoever causes one of these little ones to stumble, it is better for him to have a millstone hung around his neck and drowned into the depths of the sea. What is our so-called enlightened ones? The feminists, the LGBT, the evening news, the people that look so happy in telling us what you need to know coming up next. And it's fake news and spin doctoring and lying to us. They're lying to children. They've hijacked the universities and the public schools and have the audacity and arrogance to sit there and say, there's no God, what a bunch of fairy tales. And people sat around a campfire passing on all these tales. Tales? Like the tail that I don't have. The tail that isn't, when I take off my clothes, there's no tail back there. I wonder why. If we all came from monkeys, where's the tail? Where's the fur? Oh, there was some under here and down here, and this has to be shaved. Yeah, I gotcha. The only tales that are being told are by the evolutionists, folks. Not by those who believe in creation by a creator. There's a gentleman who studied DNA. He is a true definition of a scientist. He studied the DNA structure and came out some years ago and said that we all have the same parents. That the DNA shows that we all have a common origin. Nobody laughed at him. Because this guy wasn't some dum-dum. But ironically, the Bible's told us that all along. Before anybody even knew about DNA. J.I. Packer, in his book, Knowing God, talks about a bunch of scientists climbing up the side of this mountain to pickaxes and their little microscopes and everything, and they get to the top of the summit and they find that there's a bunch of theologians sitting up there that were there a long time before they ever were. That just simply said, yeah, we could have told you this, scientists. You just now found that out? We knew this a long time ago. I don't care for Mr. Dawkins. He's a cynic. Mr. Dawkins is not, in my opinion, an intellectual. He has an axe to grind. And most atheists do. They can't leave somebody's letter to the editor alone in the town's paper defending something about God. And even though I don't believe in putting all these iconic religious tribal things on the front of courthouse plazas, they really get tripped up over that. And I just go, you know what? Why does it bother you so much? Anybody want to do some good reading? Take the time to read Mein Kampf. Read Marx's stuff. Marx says religion is the opiate of the people. Wow, that was deep, Marx. Deep. So is materialism, so is alcohol, so is gambling, so is obsession with SUVs and dogs and television and everything else that Americans buy themselves on. Shoot, some people only live for the evening news. That isn't an opiate. Not only are they being brainwashed, it's almost become cult-like. Yeah, religion is the opiate of the people, but it's not the only one. It's in line with many opiates. Atheism is the opiate of atheists. There's no God, we can do whatever we want. Go up to an atheist and say, hey, your wife's hot. I think I'm going to sleep with her tonight. Watch his reaction. But that's my wife, you can't touch her. Wait a minute, survival of the fittest. If I can gun you down and break into your house, I can take her. You can't do that, there's laws. You said you don't believe in God. You said you don't believe in absolutes. That there's no commands, that that's just fairy tales. So why should I respect your little rules to protect your wife? Oh, you got a pretty nice Peugeot out there. I think I'll help myself to that too. And then I'll just sign the title deed of your house over to me. Atheists are hypocrites. Atheist thinking is utterly devoid of any intellectual anything. When you start using simple arguments that don't even have to be based in the whole physics and quantum this and you can shoot them down just on a philosophizing plane. Well, it's against the law. Whose law? Oh, that's the law that you want to favor yourself. You worked hard for your car. You chose your wife. No one should touch her or your car. I actually agree with you, but not on your understanding. I agree with you because God said, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's anything. So atheists, how come you get to pick and choose the rules you want, the ones that benefit you? Huh? You're the ones that can't handle the truth. You're the ones that can't handle true science. You're the ones that get all stinked up about Christian this and Christian that. And you're the ones, and this is what I've noticed about Americans in general. It would be so nice if everybody really believed the same. Can't we all just get along? No. It's impossible. Because atheists don't allow live and let live when it comes to Christianity. No, they don't. They want to shut down. They want to be the watchdogs of anything that violates the separation of church and state. Okay, atheists, but show me in our Constitution, our documents, where you can't mention God or have a prayer open the House and the Senate. You got a problem with that. If God doesn't exist, why don't you just laugh it off? You can't do everything about everything. No, but this is proof. This is proof to the atheist. You're not so convinced there is no God. That's why you want to just scream and yell and rant and rave and do everything you can to remove every vestige of it, and you still can't get it done. You forbade the Bible in Russia in 1989 when the Iron Curtain came down. The first thing the Soviets did was say, give us Bibles. I think that's funny because Jesus says, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Oh, the Russians and the communists and the atheists have sure tried. Why is it the atheists want to deny the rest of us freedom? In fact, for that matter, why does the liberal left want to deny us our freedom? Barack Obama wanted to do something messing with talk radio. He said he wanted to make it fair. Fair? Does anybody remember the cheesy show Voice of America? It was the liberals' attempt at taking on Rush. You know how long it lasted? It didn't. CNN continues pumping out the same tripe-baroo. And The View, the wonderful show on ABC, The View. Barbara Walters and Whoopi Goldberg and all the other overly done-up, makeup-caked fluties. Fluties. That really don't know what they're talking about when it comes to God and politics and truth. And I would tell every male in my audience, if you want to keep chasing American women that support shows like The View, you get what you deserve. You marry a woman who supports The View, you get the marriage from hell you deserve. If you're conservative and you fear God, and you better not get involved with chicks that watch that tripe. Or the soap operas, or CNN, or the plethora of primetime TV viewing today. Talk about Cheese Whiz culture. Because of the belief of evolution, it's been very easy for Americans now to say that their dog is their family member. Isn't that cute? Isn't that touching? I hate to break it to you, but a dog is a dog, and I know if you turn the name dog around, you've made it your god, but it's a four-legged beast that poops and pees and eats its own poop, eats its own vomit, breath stinks, rummages in the trash. It's a beast. Now, I like animals. I like dogs. I really don't want one in my house, would I ever have one, because it's just too much maintenance. They're like taking care of a toddler. but they're not a family member. They're a pet. I find it interesting in the Bible that dogs were looked down at as unclean things. Paul, when he referred to the Judaizers, the Judaizers, the Jewish people that were telling these Christians, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to get circumcised. Paul says, no, you don't. Jesus Christ died on the cross, and he didn't die for you to go get circumcised. Circumcised is a personal choice. Most of us in the Western countries did it for hygiene reasons. That people who don't get rid of the foreskin can tend to have infections because the pee gets trapped up in there and gets dirty and you can't wash it very cleanly. And not only that, it can be unsightly. And I don't know too many women who've come up to me and said, man, I really want to go with a guy who's got his foreskin attached. It's just not a societal cool. Some people don't get circumcised. But it doesn't mean they're devils for not doing so. It's a choice. And Paul called those people, those dogs, those mutilators of the flesh. And when American women started putting poochies on a pedestal, something went wrong. Just this morning, I walked around the lake and I see the dog people. Pensive face. They're trying to have authority over their dog. Talking with authoritative tone, or they're maybe talking it. And as I walked the path, I noticed there was poop on the path. Poop everywhere. That one person managed to bag up the poop and set it on the edge of the trash receptacle, not in the hole. And I'll see these, Target-looking, plain Jane, slender women. They're rude, they're mean, they're antisocial to us white men. And they'll turn the bag inside out. Pick up the poop. That's good, dog. Yeah, you're good, baby. Oh, yeah, you're so good. You went poo-poo. What achievement. I am cynical. I'm cynical because I grew up in a house with two cockapoos that barked and barked and barked and barked. It disturbed the whole neighborhood. The dogs tore up everything. They pooped and peed and tore up the furniture, everything. Never, ever saw my mother get mad at them. But when I was just being a boy and I'd raise my voice a little bit or be expressive, I was shut down, scolded, usually disciplined. And I grew up with an awareness that pets are more important than people. I grew up with an awareness that materialism is more important than me. So that is some of the impetus with which I speak so vocally about this pet obsession in our culture. It is a form of immaturity. It is a form of childishness. It is a form of dysfunction. If people can have a pet, but you see these new yupsters, they got to go out and buy the house, and they got to have his and hers SUV, and he's pushing the Jeep stroller with the two babies in it, and then we got to get a dog. And then she's walking with the stroller in one hand, cell phone in another, Starbucks latte in the other. I'm sorry. The image, I just think, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not involved with a chick like that. We have become a Cheese Whiz culture. We have become a culture that has put animal rights above people. We are cynical and rude to each other. Even the car commercials so aggressive and bad driving, including splashing pedestrians, cutting them off. That we are guilted and shamed by the commercialization aspect of our materialistically obsessed culture. You don't want to be seen in that car. Would you really, guys, want that hot woman just because she's into your car? If you have an ounce of brain and a heart, the answer is no. Gone are the churches that on Sunday morning start addressing are cultural, deep, dark issues. The United Methodist Church in Denver every spring allows the parishioners to bring in all their animals and pets and birds to receive blessings in the church. The United Methodist Church will not stand up and preach that certain things are sin anymore. In fact, it was the United Methodist Church that now has Bibles that remove any reference to God being a He, a Father, Jesus the Son. Do your research if you doubt me. The United Methodist Church, which has its roots in Mr. John Wesley, one of the most itinerant, prominent hellfire brimstone preachers back in his day, way back in the 1800s, raised by a mother who had the fear of God in her. Now I call it the United Methodists. They have long departed. If you want to go to a Methodist church that still has vestiges of its original roots in Wesley's fiery sermons, you go to the Evangelical Free Methodist Church. I've attended a few of those. Who drives the Easter egg crap and the Christmas crap? Is it men? No. It is touchy-feeling, emotionally driven logic women. They think all that vain stuff is absolutely cute. That when we have a superficial culture of women, you would think that a pastor would take advantage of hitting them heavy and head on with the truth. But every preacher in America knows if you want to grow your church, don't offend the ladies. Because if you offend the ladies, they're going to leave. And their men will walk right out with them. Because we have manginas, simps. I'm not saying anything that isn't true. I have yet to see a church pastor address feminism and how deep and wide that cancer has gotten into even church women. Women in churches need to be told the truth about their dressing, about the way they're addressing us men, about their little narcissistic entitlement mentality that they deserve this perfect man. Well, guess what, ladies? I deserve a perfect woman. But you never hear the men say that. And if you did, the howling and yelling from the female community would never stop. Oh my gosh. In fact, if you look closely on dating sites, you'll see it already. The woman who didn't discipline her body and decided to get obese. I mean, let me make it clear. There's all kinds of body styles. But I'm talking about women that got rolls of flesh. When simple discipline and not eating the junk food and the ho-hos and the bonbons and all the soda pop and chips and crap, and a little exercise and a little discipline would tighten those things up. And I hear those Christian women respond with, oh, the man wants a Barbie, but God looks at the heart. Well, my response to that is, you're right, but I'm not God. I'm Pacific. And because God told me to be fruitful and multiply, which would infer that we're going to have a sexual relationship as well, I can't get into sex with you because I won't need Viagra. That's not the problem. But I can't get in the mood for you. You don't turn me on. So you go ahead and strut every extra poundage of yourself and continue to live your life alone. Because most men are side-oriented. And most men today, especially my age, I start looking at a woman and go, a raft of health problems, weak knees, heart issues, too much weight, sits on the couch, the house is a mess, she loves to watch TV and eat junk food. Yeah, this would be a good relationship for Pacific. Mr. Energy, Mr. Controversial, this would be a good wife to have at my side. Hey, baby, see if I can stretch my arm 4 more feet to get around you. Yeah, that'd be a good relationship for Pacific, right? Can't take her for walks. I'm going to say it, ladies, and you're not going to like it. For me to marry a woman like that, I would go into depression from which I'd never recover. My sex life would suck. My relational life with you would be just not to mention hygiene and smell issues and other things that generally come with women that don't discipline their bodies. I will never apologize. I will never repent that I actually said that if you want to carry your little obesity victory flag and wave it in my face and say that God looks at the heart, well, good. Then you go to God and say, God, provide me a man that's as big as me. I don't want to marry a man that's that big. Why not? God looks at the heart, baby. All you got to do to pick on some of these people is throw their view right back in their face. You know, we get so caught up in trying to argue and to debate and to be apologetics, you know. That's why with atheists, I don't get into quantum physics and millions and billions of years of foolishness, which is what that is. I just simply look at them and go off the philosophy of what they've taught. You're right. There's no absolutes. Survival of the fittest. You wonder why all these teenagers are going to all the authority now. And you wonder why you can't do anything about it. Well, because you don't have a big enough tank to wipe them all out. That's one. And you fail to realize that those kids listen to your so-called science. The kids got the message. Hey, Grandpa over there told us there's no absolutes. Love that. F you, Pops. You think I'm kidding? I've got all the proof I need. Our whole society has slid down the toilet because people shook their fist at God and said, we don't want anything to do with him. We're enlightened. We're college-educated professionals. As drool's coming out of their mouth. Wow, these millennials are off the chain. What is going on? Could it be that you've laid the foundation for a rebellion that's going to be coming? You know, there's a revolution taking place right now in America. All these youngsters today, they're the Cheese Whiz culture. What's funny is all these millennials think that whatever's absolute to them as an individual is what matter. They've been hooked onto this liberal left idea that we're global warming and the planet's going to burn up because of greenhouse emissions, blah, blah, blah. But they all still want SUVs that guzzle more gas, typically, than a Toyota Corolla. Nobody stops and thinks about it. The simple absurdity of these views. You don't need to argue with the Bible. You don't need to argue with the science. You just need to argue from simple common sense, which if you get to the base of most of these twisted, ridiculous viewpoints, they lack common sense. These people think that their airtight argumentation will uphold the ridiculous monstrosity of atheism. They counter back with, oh, Christians are circular argumentationists. I don't argue circularly. I ask them a simple question. What good is your view doing to society? Is it making people treat people better because there's no God and there's no absolutes and it really doesn't matter? Boy, yeah, I see it on the road every day. I see where atheism and evolution has really made people better drivers. So is the LGBT philosophy. So has the feminist philosophy. So has the stuff your face and eat it and be a pig philosophy. Yep. Have you ever seen some of these heavy women just cut in front of me? They do it all the time. They can't control their eating. How in the world will they control their driving their car? If an atheist believes there's no absolutes, what do you think they do when they get in their automobile? That guy's going too slow for me. Screw that. I'm just going to cut him off. I don't have to use a turn signal because there's no absolutes. Don't you touch my car, though, or I'll sue you. Yeah. You know what, atheists? You know what, heavy people? You know what, LGBT community? You can't pick and choose. That's like having a volleyball game. Volleyball. Let's talk about volleyball. There's regulations in a game. The net has to be a certain height, certain distance. The court has to be so wide, and there's rules for professional volleyball. But if you let the atheists play, they'll lower the net to 4 feet on their side. Yep. The pundits out there that believe the poppycock laugh at Pacific. Here's a guy that speaks from a storage room. Oh, I didn't know to get on YouTube I had to have a full surround sound Dolby equipped stereo studio. Didn't know that. Guess I missed that in the community guidelines. I've spoken from a closet, a garage, my truck. I spoke from the seaside in Hong Kong. From my flat in Hong Kong. On a ferry. Because this stuff, the background, that's not the message. People don't have anything to say. People who major on the external superficialities and want to build a whole channel off an American society that loves to gobble up being entertained, well, you get millions of views and likes and thumbs up and people to support your channel. Good for you. But when you have a message that you want to be heard that gets into people's hearts, the background is immaterial. You don't see me wearing dollar store sunglasses and a baseball hat and an outfit that hides who I am. Nope, Pacific is right out here in the nude. And when I mean nude, I'm not meaning without clothes on. I just be who I am. That rattles just about everybody that I talk about. You know, I guess if I was one of those guys on Sunday morning that somebody came up and asked me, "How are you?" "I'm doing well." I guess I'd fit in more. I guess if I was fake and superficial, "Yeah, I had a really good week. Thanks for asking." You know, I can't be that way. I don't want to be that way. Call me a nonconformist. And can I be honest with my viewers? Even my atheist friends out there? You know, I used to play the game called church too. I used to go into church and I would never publicly say anything about the church, and because we're taught not to do that. We're taught not to do that. And I always come back and say, do you ever notice, have you ever met an individual that do horrible things in the home? You know, your mom, your dad. And the minute you go talk to another trusted relative about things that mom and dad are doing, and guess what happens when you go back home? Did you talk about what goes on in here? Yes, I did. Why is you talking? Oh my gosh, Armageddon. Yeah. Why is it? Because people that are evil, people that are doing wicked, and people that are doing wrong don't want you to tell anybody what they're doing. I can make a direct analogy to my previous channel. Talk about video game addiction and the behavior. You start talking about atheists, you start talking about rude drivers and all this. And it's only a matter of time before John Q. Public that sits there on YouTube comes in and flies into the room and roosts on my channel for a brief while. They're going, oh, this guy's making me really uncomfortable. But if they were truly well-adjusted people and thought I was a fruitcake, they'd just click the red X and say, I'm not going to listen to this crap. But they don't. I will say it again. People with atheistic views. People that believe evolution is true science. The liberal left. I started my channel this time. The hatred from the left. There you go. Why so much hate? Why so much denial of one's freedom of speech? If I was to have a whole video forum on puppy dogs, nobody would troll my channel. Nobody. Somebody might put, that's gay, in the comments, but the attack and the threats, and no. So if I was to do a video channel on scrapbooking or digging stuff out of the trash, or talking about classic cars, they'd leave me alone, of course. Today we're going to talk about home improvement and painting your house. Who's going to attack that? I remember reading some of the past comments a long time ago when I shut down my channel. Pacific has no right to be on YouTube anymore. Let's see, that must be one of the atheists. The ones that say there's no absolutes. And they have a right to be there, and they have a right to shut down channels and yell and scream. By the way, they didn't shut down anything. I voluntarily shut down my channel. Hello. When you want to talk about viewpoints, whether it be an atheistic worldview, or a Christian worldview, or a Buddhist worldview, or a feminist worldview, you start talking about the truth. And when you start talking about the truth about any of those views, you find all of the holes in those views. When you look at the behavior and the philosophy that comes out of the individuals purporting the viewpoint that they hold to, then it becomes clear what their view really is. Wicked. Darkness. You don't have the right, Pacific, to speak. I do. Who says? You don't believe in God, so who gives you that authority? Yourself? Oh, okay. Interesting. And according to you and your foolishness, nobody has a right to hold you accountable because, after all, there's no absolutes. But wait, you're holding me accountable. What gives you that right? Nothing. You know what gives me the right to speak? Something bigger than all the foolishness out there. The one who made me. The one who made the world. The universe flung the stars into place, raised up the mountains, made valleys, made oceans and whales and all kinds of things. He's the one. People don't get it. In all the time that I've spoken and all the time that I ranted and harped on certain issues, people that are behaving like what I just described, believing in the philosophies that are damnable and destructive, what are you going to get out of those kinds of people? Not good. Yes, there are Christians that have done bad things. But Christianity, on its own two legs, has done more for giving people hope, peace, love, forgiveness of sins. Christianity, when it gets a hold of people who are going to go get revenge on people who deserved it, they stopped. Tell me, atheism gives you hope? No. Atheism gives you a promise of a future and eternal life in heaven? No. Well, but that's stupid, Pacific. There's no God. You hope there's no God. Because you're dumb. You're going to live your life excluding all those rules that you don't like. And the only way you can get rid of the rules is to get rid of the rule maker. And if you get rid of the rule maker in your eensy weensy, itsy bitsy nucleus of a brain, you think that you formed an airtight argument from whence to live your life. The only problem, atheist, that you don't get right now is death will shut you down someday. Then you're going to find out you had a soul that lives forever. I have to chastise Christians on this. I said, quit telling people, oh, when you die, if you're not a Christian, you won't live forever. Oh, yes, you will live forever. There's no death to the soul. You either go to heaven and enjoy fellowship and bliss with God and his saints and the angels, or you go to hell and suffer every minute of every day for eternity, where the worm dieth not, weeping and gnashing of teeth. And even the atheist thirsts, and they fill it with evolution and quasi-educational enlightenment. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not going to listen to the age-old tribal argument. Tribal, not tribal. Look at all the religions that started wars. Stalin and Lenin and Russia and all the communism that denies people the freedom to check it out for themselves. Hey, atheists, why don't you let those people read the Bible and see that it's a bunch of foolishness? Why don't you let them do that? But you can't. Not in a communist regime. You got to confiscate all the Bibles and send canines into the underground church in Russia, pre-Iron Curtain, and bite and tear up everybody and send them to concentration camps. They're sin because they read the Bible. What is your problem? If this stuff isn't true, then why are you overreacting? Because you know that there's power in that book. Because you know that the one who wrote it is powerful. And you don't want people getting a hold of something called loving their enemies, forgiveness. That's the problem. You want to deny people their freedom while claiming that you're enlightened by your education. While claiming that there is no God. Thus, you make yourself the God, and you get to determine what is right and wrong. The only problem with that is another atheist could come along and say, well, I don't agree with your definition of right and wrong. Let's take the liberal left's share the wealth mentality that really flourished under Barack Obama. Did anybody see what happened after he left office? He was on yachts and hobnobbing and spending money like there was no tomorrow. Did he share that wealth with me or any of us hardworking people that work at Walmart and all the low-paying jobs in America? Nope, not at all. Do the Democrats spread the wealth so that the rest of us can have equal health care insurance that they have? Nope. If you want to understand a philosophy, whether it's atheism or the liberal left or all the foolishness that goes on out there, just look at the behavior and actions of those people. If they really believed that, and I come back with the atheism, does it make people more kinder and genteel to each other? Not at all. I am not saying that all atheists are monsters. So before you read that into this, I know atheists that believe in following rules and believe in treating people right. There are those out there. But there's a lot of atheists out there that want to shut down freedom for those that want to believe in faith in God. And to the atheist, I say that you want to laugh at faith, The stuff that you're promoting and purporting out there, atheism, that there is no God, that we all just happen by randomness, that takes more faith to believe in that than it does to believe that God created us, that there was a designer behind all this. So you're exercising faith too. Sadly, your faith is not going to net you any rewards whatsoever. It's going to net you a seat where it's eternal darkness. And while you're living, it's easy to laugh, mock, and sneer. But when you die, get back to me. You won't be able to. Because where I am and where you are, I can't just open the door and say, hey, John Atheist, how's it going over there? And you won't be able to open the door where I'm at and say, Pacific, how's it going in heaven? I don't think that's funny. I don't think it's funny that people go to hell. But the older I get, I start to look at people and their just insidiousness about things and so self-assured smugness. They don't really check out anything. They just laugh and mock and sneer and, oh, let's attack Pacific's looks, his glasses, that he does something from a storage room, or he clears his throat, or Pacific goes, and that's what they focus on. And, of course, not one of those guys shows their face or makes a quality video production that gives people hope. If any videos they make are, they're put down mockatory and they're just garbage. In fact, to use a more accurate word, ghetto. The lower end of humanity. There's a price to pay in America for talking out of the heart. There's a price to pay for being honest. There's a price to pay for being who you are. There's a price to pay for not following societal norms. And when I say that, I want to be careful. That even in a church setting, even among different kinds of people that call themselves saints, that everybody tends to have rules in their life that may not be from pages of Holy Writ, but personal preferences that they think everybody else ought to adhere to, and you have to be very careful. To those I say, is that in the Bible? Or is that just your personal preference and an opinion that you're trying to impose on others? And often, especially in our culture of the aged, they can be opinionated about a lot of things that are not necessarily backed up by the Word. We have to make sure that if we do hold to an opinion, that we state it as such. The non-negotiables are what we need to stand rigidly for. The Bible's true, non-negotiable. Jesus Christ is God, non-negotiable. Jesus Christ died on a cross, non-negotiable. The only way to get to heaven is through Jesus Christ. Faith in Him, non-negotiable. Whether you wear a chain or drive a Peugeot or a $500 beater Subaru is immaterial to your Christian walk. It's a hard thing. The older that I get, when I want to get away from all of the people and get home from work every day, I really don't want to sit down with somebody who has an empty view that they hold rigidly to and try to extract anything that's going to feed my soul. When I've had a rough day in traffic and a rough day in humanity, I want to go and quietly cry out to God and say, God, I need you today. Today was hard. All the atheism in the world ain't going to do that for me. The ludicrousness of looking at the body, just our body in all its intricacies, and saying that happened by accident is off the chain. There is a designer. There's a lawgiver. and a judge. And I'm sorry to lay into my own culture pretty heavy here, but most of our culture is a Cheese Whiz culture. It's that nasty cheese that you spray out of a can that really isn't good for you. We need something more substantial. If you listen to the liberal left and Hollywood and rock music culture, and you keep listening to that and piping all of that into your head and heart, it brainwashes you. But if you're like myself, and you know that most of that stuff is dead culture, you want something deeper. And one more message back to the church in America. If the church in America continues to follow the disgusting landslide of doing everything they can to be non-offensive and to give homage to a culture around us that is increasingly decadent, and using the little silly marketing techniques to attract superficial plastic people to bring their children to church. Well, they have Easter egg hunts. I would rather be at the helm of a church where I can say what I need to say, what I believe God is telling me to say, and if everybody gets up and leaves, then I just say, okay, God, you told me to do this, now what? Too many preachers don't have faith in the living God. Because if they did, they'd stop preaching the tripe they're preaching, and they'd start get about the business of looking at the culture of people that are sitting in their assembly and start addressing it. Yeah, some people are going to get butthurt and walk. But if you're led by the Holy Spirit, maybe some of those people go, wow, I never saw this. I repent. All of us carry the trappings of an American culture gone wild. All of us. Just say no to Cheese Whiz, man. That when Jesus Christ gets a hold of your life, that's when you finally learn to start becoming real. Jesus said, I give you a heart of flesh. And people miss that. Oh, I thought we had a living, breathing heart in us anyway. We do. But it becomes like stone when we deny God. It becomes stone when we ignore Him and His commands. It becomes stone. And when we get saved, born again, become a Christian, our heart starts to change. And if you become more and more cynical and more hating and more mean and more rude and more mockatory, you better question, what is your worldview? In other words, how's that atheism working out for you? And I realize that a growing number of people in our world today don't care. They like being rude and mean and cynical. They get off on that. To them, I say this, be careful. Somebody meaner and more cynical than you may come and put their boot in your face one day. Get back to me and tell me how that feels. They might shut you down in a way you never dreamed. I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but we got people now that have no compass. Their needle's spinning wildly north, south, east, west. The magnetic field is thrown off. And you know what? They pick up a gun and they go in the mall. Christianity doesn't do that. Did you know that Hitler and other regime leaders have read Darwin's Black Box? They admitted it. And that's what also gave them impetus to declare wars and torture and treat people the way they treated them. Darwin's own wife did not agree with his craziness. She attended church in England. And Darwin admitted that the reason he went after this search is because he couldn't reconcile the evil that went on in the world. And the Bible covered why that happened. We sinned. God told Adam and Eve, in the day that you eat of that tree, you shall surely die. Everybody says, okay, well, they died. So what does that have to do with children going down in a plane crash? Thank you. It infected the hard drive of all of creation. Now we get cancer. Animals eat each other. Animals eat us. And we eat animals. And we abuse animals. And everything is out of balance. You know, environmentalism could simply be solved. Not by the liberal left, because they're going about it the wrong way. They're all still driving their gas-guzzling SUVs and buying their carbon footprint home that's bigger than Al Gore's. Yeah, you know, don't get me started on this stuff. That true Christians don't believe in stripping the land and stripping everything. Yes, we got a lot of Christian materialists today. I get that. But people who are truly in tune with God, they took a look at those big trees and go, whoa, wait a minute, let's not cut those down. Let's not cut those down. We cut those down, we're never getting them back. When I was on Llama Island in Hong Kong, a favorite place to take the ferry and walk, when I went back in 2011, I took the ferry and I went over there by myself and I walked around the back part of the island. I was shocked to see that the excavators were all in place. They were driving pilings into the hillside and they were building all these tiered, stacked condo type things. And I thought, no, not Llama. That man is destructive. There's no doubt about it. The white man came in and he did a horrible thing to the buffaloes. They said the buffalo was so thick that you couldn't even see the prairie. And to get back at the Native Americans, they shot them, and the government sponsored this. Men would sit on trains laughing. There's a picture on a placard up at Lookout Mountain, or Chief Hosa exit. And you go down there, and they got placards, and City Parks of Denver actually owns a piece of land up there, and they got bison up there. I take the students up there on Wednesdays to see the bison. And they got a placard that shows a mountain. I'm not kidding you, a mountain of buffalo skulls. And it tells a story. That yes, my people came in and obliterated the dang things just to starve out the Indians of the food source. Let me make it clear, there's a whole lot of nasty stuff that's been done in the name of whatever. Governments, faiths. Atheism is a faith, so they're not exempt. They want to sit there and play dumb on this whole thing. Stalin and Lenin were not God-fearing people. Neither is Kim Jong-un. And these people are evil and they're wicked because they don't believe in God. Adolf Hitler had a major problem. The fact that he was part Jewish and turned on his own people in the way he did is beyond the scope of my understanding. But I do know this is a fact. That none of those people did what they did because they put their faith in the Bible. They did what they did because they didn't believe in the Bible. Same with the Inquisition and the Crusades. They did not base that on Holy Writ. The Catholic Church seldom based anything on Holy Writ. The Catholic Church was an ecclesiastical structure that if you do your study in the letters written to the 7 churches in Revelation to one church, but this one thing you have, you hate the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. You need to study the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, but it's tied in deeply with the clergy laity class system. It's tied in deeply with the beginnings of the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church has its own evils and atrocities. It was controlled by popes who called themselves infallible. And when you give somebody the title of infallibility, do you know what that means? They can do whatever they want without being questioned or held accountable. Vikers of Christ. Jesus never set that up. Jesus had 12 disciples. And he knew that one of them was going to turn on him. And what's interesting is Jesus told his disciples, whoever wants to be great must be the servant of all. The Catholic Church was serving itself for eons. That is why it is very hard to reach Europeans for Jesus Christ, because Catholicism was a pseudo-religion that claimed Christian inklings here and there. And the modern-day Europeans want absolutely nothing to do with anything that reeks of Christendom because of the all-pervading, damning influence of Catholicism. And many people believe that in Revelation 17 and 18, when it talks about a woman rides the beast, that woman is false religions, all united under one banner. We're seeing these coexist stickers all over the backs of vehicles. And this is where I disagree with Mr. Graham. I gave my tribute to him. But Mr. Graham and many evangelicals, and I could throw out a who's who list of names, signed a document called Evangelicals and Catholics Together. Dave Hunt took issue with that when he was alive under the the organization that he called the Berean Call. Great newsletter, by the way. And Dave Hunt said, so the evangelical church ignores the fact there's over 100 anathemas that stand within the Catholic Church that were pronounced against evangelicals. If you want to do your study, read the 100 anathemas that the Catholic Church pronounced against us. Catholicism and evangelical Christianity are not compatible. Roman Catholic Church very clearly teaches in their bylaws and their documents that you don't come to faith by simply believing in the shed blood of Jesus Christ. It says anybody who teaches that, let him be anathema. That means accursed. No, you got to pray the rosary, you got to do penance, you got to do this, and you got to do the sacraments, and you got all this little religious ladders you got to climb, and then you hope you make it. If you don't, there's always purgatory. And if you want to know about Catholicism, follow the money trail. And if you want to know about Catholicism, read A Woman Rides the Beast that was written by Dave Hunt. It's an expose on the Catholic Church from Constantine up to Pope John Paul II. Yeah, a lot of wars have been started in the name of religion. But as I stated boldly to my viewers before, there's a difference between religion, which is man's attempt at getting to God on his own merit and his ego, versus a relationship where God reaches down and says, specific, you can't earn favor with me. I sent my son to die for you in your place, taking on your sin on his back on the cross. And I believed. That's it. That's it. That's it. That is not heretical. That is not fallacious. That is the truth. Religion is destructive, more than anything else, to the destination of the soul that clings to it. And then secondly, religion starts wars. But so does the godless philosophy of atheism. Any false view starts wars and problems and us versus them. It always does, always will. Look at feminism. Pendulums swing to the far left. All men are terrible. Feminism is not good for any survival of healthy society and families and culture. LGBT is not healthy and good for the survival of a healthy society. And how are they responding to my comments about that? Oh, he's a homophobe. Yes, I get up every day and I'm scared to death of gay people. Not. I think that I have exhibited a huge amount of understanding for the why a girl is attracted to another girl and a guy is attracted to another guy, but it doesn't make it right in the eyes of God. We have a culture in America. We have a large percentage of Americans that consume a Cheese Whiz culture, a media culture, an education culture, which is nothing more than spray cheese out of a can. Tastes good, but it's loaded with chemicals and toxins, and it will destroy you eventually. We live in a Cheese Whiz world. Jesus said about himself, I am the bread of life. But truth be told, most people in our Western culture would rather have Cheese Whiz out of a can than deal with the bread of life. And maybe you think I'm being too tongue-in-cheek. Yes, I'm using an analogy. But atheism doesn't do good for society and humanity. It doesn't encourage morals. It doesn't encourage getting along and being peaceful and respectful. No. And another dynamic that's happening, especially here in Denver, is you got a lot of kids just ditching out of school. Well, why is that happening? Well, if there's no absolutes and there's no God, why do I need to go to school? Logical lily pad from logical lily pad of a belief system that says, well, I don't have to obey the cops. I don't have to go to school. Mom and Dad, I don't care if you're my parents. Yeah, these viewpoints aren't just benign viewpoints. Live and let live. There's fallout from a wrong viewpoint. There's a fallout. There's the chickens coming home to roost, and we're seeing those chickens roosting all over America's shores because of this stuff. And the poor little church in America is really not reaching the peoples. So let's throw in some more entertainment and puppet theaters and Easter egg hunts, and there you go. You heard it first here, folks. Stay tuned for more.